The sky was burning. Alara had never seen such colors before. Red fire, thick black smoke, and strange blue lightning danced across the air as her ship tore through the clouds of an unknown planet. Alarms screamed inside the cockpit. Sparks flew. She tried to steer the controls, but nothing worked. She was falling and then ness. When she opened her eyes, the world was quiet. She was lying on cold ground. Her head ached. Her body felt heavy. Above her, the sky was gray and strange. The air smelled different, like dust and trees. Her ship was broken, half buried in the dirt. She sat up slowly. Pain shot through her side. She touched her ribs, cracked, maybe broken. Her skin, blue and glowing in patches, was scraped and dirty. Her long silver hair was tangled. She was not on her home planet anymore. Suddenly, she heard something, footsteps, crunching through the dry grass. She turned quickly, eyes wide with fear. A tall figure stood just a few meters away, covered in armor, wearing a helmet with a black glass visor. A breathing sound came from him, slow and steady. Alara crawled back, gasping. Her heart raced. Was it an enemy? Another alien? A hunter? The figure raised both hands, not to attack, but to show peace. "I'm not gonna hurt you," the human said. Of course, Alara didn't understand the words. The language was unknown. But the voice, deep, tired, human, was calm. She stared at him. Her species had studied humans from far away, but this was her first time seeing one in real life. She had always been told humans were dangerous, selfish, violent, but this one looked different. He slowly placed something on the ground, a small metal bottle. Water. Then he stepped back. Alara looked at the bottle, then at him. Was it a trick, poison, a trap? But her throat was dry. She needed it. Crawling forward, she picked it up, sniffed it. It smelled clean. Carefully she took a sip. Cool water touched her lips. She drank fast. The human watched in silence. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away. That night, she sat alone near the broken ship. Her stomach growled. Her side still hurt. The strange sky above was filled with stars she didn't recognize. She felt small, lost. The next morning, she woke to a soft sound. Something wrapped in cloth had been placed near her. Food. She looked around, but the human was gone. She unwrapped it. It smelled odd, but not bad. Carefully she ate a small bite. Then another. He had come back, and he brought food. Why? Aliens don't help strangers. Not on her world. Not ever. The next few days were the same. She saw him from a distance. He came and went quietly, never getting too close. Sometimes, he fixed things near an old metal building far away. He worked with tools and machines. He had a small fire at night. Sometimes she saw light and heard soft music. He didn't speak much, but he watched her. She started watching him too. She saw how he walked with a limp, maybe an old injury. She saw how he looked up at the sky with sad eyes. She saw him take out a small photo from his pocket of a human family and stare at it for a long time. He was alone too. One evening, Alara tried to walk. She made it halfway toward him before falling. Her leg gave out. The human rushed over. His helmet was off now. She saw his face. Rough, tired, kind eyes. A scar on his cheek. He knelt beside her and gently lifted her. She wanted to fight, to push him away. But she didn't. He brought her to his camp and placed her near the fire. She expected him to speak, to ask questions. But he didn't. He just sat across from her, quiet. She watched the flames dance between them. After a while, he looked at her and said softly, "You're not like the others, are you?" She didn't understand the words, but she felt something in his voice. Not hate, not fear. Something close to care. It was strange, new. She looked at him and didn't feel afraid anymore. That night, as she lay near the fire, she thought of her people. They would never call a stranger friend. They would never sit by a fire with an enemy. But this human, he didn't follow those rules. Maybe on this strange planet, everything was different. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. The wind was cold the next morning. Thin clouds moved slowly across the sky, and the light was soft, almost gray. Alara opened her eyes slowly. She was lying close to the fire, though it had gone out during the night. Her body still ached, but it wasn't as sharp as before. Her wounds were healing, slowly, but they were healing. She looked around. The human was gone again. She didn't know his name. She didn't know his language. She only knew the sound of his voice, the roughness of his hands, the quiet way he moved, like someone who didn't want to be noticed. She didn't trust him. Not fully. But something deep inside her told her. He didn't want to hurt her. She had grown up learning that humans were wild, unpredictable, violent. Her people studied them from above, from cold ships and far-off moons, always watching, never touching. They laughed at the way humans cried, shouted, loved, and hated. Emotions were weakness, they believed, but the man who gave her food, the man who carried her to his fire, he didn't seem weak, he seemed broken, but strong in a way she couldn't describe. Alara stood slowly, testing her leg. It held, but only just. She wrapped herself in a blanket the human had left nearby. It was thick and smelled like oil and smoke. Not pleasant, but warm. She limped back toward the place he stayed, a metal shelter, half covered in dirt and vines, like it had been there for years. She didn't go close. She only watched from a distance. He was working on something, a machine, maybe a generator. His hands moved with purpose, fixing wires, tightening bolts, wiping sweat from his brow. He hadn't seen her yet. Suddenly, a sound, a loud bark. She turned and froze. A small robotic dog, rusty and broken in places, had spotted her. It moved fast, its red light blinking. It growled electronically, a sound more mechanical than animal. Jace turned at the noise. His eyes widened when he saw her. He dropped the tool in his hand and rushed toward the robot, waving his arms. No. Stop, it's okay. The robot paused, then backed down slowly. Jace turned to Alara. You all right? He asked, breathless. She couldn't answer, but she nodded. He sighed. Damn thing still thinks everyone's a threat. She pointed to the machine and tilted her head, asking a silent question. He smiled just a little. Old defense bot, modified, not smart but loyal. Alara didn't understand the words, but she understood the way he said them. She knelt and held her hand out to the small robot. It sniffed her fingers, beeped once, then backed away. Test passed. That evening, he let her sit near his fire again. No words were exchanged, just glances. Just silence. He ate a dry bar of food. She had a few bites of fruit he had picked earlier. They didn't share a meal, not yet, but they sat in the same light. She watched him from across the fire. He was carving something, a small piece of wood, shaping it with a thin knife. She leaned a little to see. It looked like a bird, or maybe a ship. His hands were rough but careful. After a few minutes, he tossed it to her. She caught it, surprised. She turned it over in her hands, studying the smooth lines and sharp edges. He nodded at her. She nodded back, the first sign of silent trust. Days passed. Alara began to walk more. She didn't hide anymore. She followed him sometimes, watched him work, helped where she could. He showed her how to wash wounds, how to light a fire, how to make a trap for small animals. She didn't speak, but she listened. And he kept talking, even when he knew she didn't understand. One night, rain fell. Hard, cold, loud against the metal roof. Jace brought her inside for the first time. The shelter was small, just one room, full of broken parts and quiet. Machines, but it was dry. It was safe. She sat in the corner, wrapped in the old blanket. He gave her something warm to drink. She tasted it. Strange, bitter, but not bad. There was music playing from a small speaker. Soft, slow. Human music. She listened, confused. Why did it make her feel sad? Jace was looking at an old picture again, the same one. A human woman, a man, and 2 children. One looked like him. Maybe it was him. He saw her watching. "My family," he said quietly. She pointed at the photo. "Finally?" He blinked, then smiled, just a little. "Yeah, family." She looked at the picture again. She didn't fully understand, but she felt something. He set the picture down and leaned back, eyes closed. "You remind me of someone," he whispered. "My sister. She was brave too." Alara repeated the word softly. "Sister?" He looked at her. She met his eyes. And for the first time, they truly saw each other. 2 strangers. 2 lost souls. One planet. In silence, something began to grow between them. Not fear, not hate. Something. Human. And neither of them had a word for it yet. But they both knew. This was the beginning of something new. The nights were getting colder. Alara could feel it in her bones, even though her kind were built to withstand harsh weather. This planet was different. It wasn't just the air or the temperature. It was the silence, the way the wind moved. Through dead trees, how every sound carried farther at night. The silence made her feel things. Things she had never been allowed to feel before. She sat by the fire again, her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around them. The human, Jace, she had finally learned his name, was across from her, staring at the flames. He looked tired. Not just in his body, but in his soul. His eyes always held that look. Like someone who had been waiting for too long, for something that would never come. Alara turned her head and watched him carefully. She didn't know how to ask him questions. She didn't even know if she wanted to. But there was something about him. Something that pulled her attention like gravity. He took a deep breath, then reached into his jacket and pulled out that same photo again. He stared at it like it was a window to another life. One he could never go back to. Alara shifted closer. Noticed but didn't stop her. She pointed at the picture again. "F-A-M. Lee," she said, carefully. Jace looked at her, then gave a small smile. "Yeah," he said. "Family." She pointed to the little girl in the photo. "Sister?" He nodded. "My sister." Her name was Lily. He said the name softly, like it still hurt to say it. His voice trembled just a little. Alara looked down. She didn't have a sister. In her world, children were raised by programs, not parents. Connection was weakness. Kindness was dangerous. She was taught to obey, to fight, to survive, but never to love. Now, sitting beside a stranger on a forgotten world, she felt something she didn't have a name for. She tapped her chest. "Alara," she said. Jace nodded. "Alara." He said it carefully, as if the word was important. Then he tapped his own chest. "Jace," she smiled. It was small, but real. "Jace." He laughed, not loud but warm. "So we finally know each other's names, huh?" She didn't understand the words, but his tone made her laugh too. Just a little. That was the first time they smiled together. The next day, Jace was out gathering supplies. Alara walked through the wreck of her ship, searching for anything useful. Most of it was junk, twisted metal, melted circuits. But in a sealed compartment, she found a small orb. She touched it, and it lit up with a soft blue glow. A hologram appeared, her training commander. Cold, lifeless eyes. A message played. "If separated from the fleet, wait for retrieval. Humans are not allies. Do not engage in emotional contact." Alara stared at the message, and her chest tightened. Not fear. Something else. She crushed the orb under her foot. That night, she didn't sit by the fire. She sat in the dark, near the edge of the camp, staring into the forest. Jace came over and crouched beside her. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer. He sat next to her anyway. After a while she looked at him and pointed to a scar on her arm. A long, thin mark. Old Dot, he frowned. What happened? She took a stick and began drawing in the dirt. She drew a circle, her home. Inside she drew figures, cold eyes, long limbs. Then she drew herself alone. Jace watched silently. She made a motion with her fingers, a whip, a strike, pain. He understood. They hurt you? She nodded once. He clenched his fists. I'm sorry. She looked at him confused. Sorry? It means ... I feel bad that someone did that to you. She looked down. The word felt heavy, warm, confusing. Then she pointed to the scar on his cheek. You? Jace touched the scar. Raiders. Took our camp. I fought them. Lost everything. Elara looked into his eyes. She saw fire there. Not anger, memory. She touched his hand gently, not to comfort. Just to say, I understand. He didn't pull away. The silence between them wasn't empty anymore. Later that night, Jace brought out an old radio. It crackled with static, then played soft music. Human music, slow, deep, full of sadness and hope. Elara closed her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of what she felt. She let herself feel the warmth of the fire, the sound of the music, the quiet of Jace sitting beside her. She didn't understand the words of the song, but the melody spoke to her anyway. It spoke of loss, of healing, of finding something in the dark. That night, Jace said nothing, and neither did she. But they both knew something had changed. Two broken souls, slowly learning how to be whole again, not with words, but with shared pain and silent trust. The forest was too quiet. Jace stood at the edge of the trees, holding his old scanner. The screen flickered, then steadied, showing a faint signal. He frowned. That signal shouldn't be there. It was weak, almost buried, but it wasn't natural. It was a beacon. A call. Someone was listening. He walked back to camp with a heavy heart. The moment he stepped into the clearing, Elara looked up from the fire. She saw the look on his face and stood up slowly. Something was wrong. Jace didn't say anything at first. He sat down and placed the scanner on the ground between them. She tilted her head, confused. He tapped the screen, the blinking light. The numbers. Signal, he said. From your ship. Still active. Elara froze. She had thought it was destroyed. Burned out. Dead. She moved quickly, rushing toward the wreck. Jace followed. They climbed inside, stepping carefully through twisted metal. The once silent ship now hummed faintly. In the back, under a panel she had forgotten about, the beacon was alive. It blinked, slow, steady, reaching for the sky. She stared at it for a long time. Her heart pounded in her chest. If the signal was working, then her people would come. They would find her, but they would find Jace too, and they would kill him. Her kind didn't believe in mercy. They didn't see other species as equals. To them, humans were a virus, emotional, chaotic, dangerous. She remembered her training clearly. Observe from a distance. Never touch, never connect, and if a human interferes, eliminate them. She touched the beacon with trembling fingers. Jace watched her. Can you shut it off? She didn't answer. She wasn't sure if she wanted to. If she shut it off, she might never go home again. If she left it on, Jace would die. Her mind screamed with old lessons. Her heart whispered something new. She turned back toward him. His eyes were calm, but sad. Like he already knew what she was thinking. You don't owe me anything, he said softly. If they come, I'll deal with it. Elara shook her head. No, I choose. He blinked. You choose? She nodded. Her hands moved quickly now, opening the side of the beacon, pulling wires. It sparked. She closed her eyes and pulled the final cable free. The light died. The silence returned. Jace let out a breath. You really did it. Alara sat down on the metal floor. Her hands were shaking. She didn't know if it was from fear or something else. He sat beside her, not close, just near enough that she could feel his presence. You don't have to go back, he said. You have a place here. If you want it. She didn't speak. But she nodded. That night, a storm came. Thunder shook the sky. Rain hit the roof like fists. Inside the shelter, Jace and Alara sat together, listening to the chaos outside. He gave her a warm drink. She took it without looking. Her mind was still full of doubt. Had she done the right thing? She looked at her hand. Her fingers still smelled like the wires she had pulled. Like burned metal and dust. She had cut herself off from her people. For a human. And yet, she didn't regret it, but fate wasn't done with them. 3 days later, the sky changed. Jace saw it first, a dark shape above the clouds. Fast, silent, moving like a shadow. His eyes narrowed. He picked up the old rifle he kept hidden beneath the floorboards. It was dusty, barely functional, but it was something. Alara stepped out of the shelter and saw it too. Her heart dropped. It was a retrieval ship. Her people had found the signal after all. Even the short burst had been enough. Jace looked at her. Get inside. She didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the ship. It hovered for a moment, then landed in the trees with a low hiss. A ramp opened. 3 figures stepped out, tall, armored, cold. Her people. One of them raised a scanner and pointed toward the camp. They're coming, Jace said, loading his rifle. Alara turned to him. You hide. No, he said. I'm not running. She looked into his eyes. He meant it. She stepped forward, out of the camp, and into the clearing. Her posture was calm, but her heart was racing. The leader of the group saw her and tilted his head. You were told not to engage, he said. His voice was sharp, metallic. Report. I survived, she replied. With help, he looked past her and saw the human. His expression changed. Cold anger. You shared fire. With it? He has a name, Alara said. The leader raised a weapon. Then you are no longer one of us. The next second moved too fast. Alara pulled the knife from her belt and threw it, hitting the weapon out of his hand. Jace fired once, hitting the ground near their feet, forcing them back. Smoke bombs exploded. The camp filled with smoke and flashing lights. Voices shouted. Energy beams lit the sky. And through it all, Alara stood by Jace's side, her hands shaking, her eyes full of something new. Not fear, but defiance. They fought, together, against the cold rules of a world she no longer believed in. And when the battle ended, when the smoke cleared and her people retreated, Jace looked at her with disbelief. You stayed, he said. Alara was breathing hard. Her skin was scratched and glowing faintly. Her voice was quiet but steady. Family stays, she replied. He didn't say anything. He just smiled. And for the first time, she smiled too. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The forest never went quiet again after that night. Even when the wind stopped, even when the birds vanished, there was a sound in the air. Something invisible, humming, waiting. Alara felt it in her bones. Jace felt it in his chest. The world had shifted. They had drawn a line neither could erase. The sky above them had been blue that morning. But by evening, it burned red. Jace stood on the hill with his old rifle slung over his back, scanning the horizon through rusted binoculars. His fingers gripped the edge of the broken tower he used as a lookout post. He didn't say anything for a long time. Alara climbed up behind him. She didn't speak either. She didn't need to. He handed her the binoculars. She looked. A fleet. 3 dark alien ships hovered above the forest line, blocking the sunset. They weren't scouts. These were not search and rescue units. These were war vessels, fast, armed, cold. They weren't here to bring her home. They were here to erase what They saw as a mistake her and him. Jay sat down on the edge of the platform. His face looked calm but tired. His eyes met hers. You sure you still want to stay? Alara nodded, no hesitation. You gave me something they never did. He raised an eyebrow. A bad radio and a rusty rifle? She smiled even now. A choice. Jay stood up, cracking his stiff neck. Then we fight. They spent the rest of the day preparing. It wasn't much. Old traps, buried wires, hidden flares. Jace had some leftover explosives from the mining station nearby. Alara reprogrammed the broken defense bot. It now followed her like a loyal shadow, red eye blinking, a little crooked but eager. They didn't have real weapons. Not like the ships that hovered above, but they had the ground. And they had each other. When the first ship lowered from the clouds, it was like a god descending. The ground shook, trees bent. Animals ran. The ship was shaped like a blade, sharp and silent. Black as space. Jace lit a flare and threw it toward the edge of the clearing. Boom. The ground exploded in a fireball. The ship didn't fall, but it swerved. More explosions followed, distractions, noise, smoke. Alara moved fast. Through the trees, her skin glowing in pulses. She activated an old jammer she had fixed from her wreckage. Signals were scrambled. The enemy's scanners blinked, confused, but they kept coming. Dozens of them, soldiers in tall armor, walking in perfect lines. No emotion, no hesitation. Their weapons charged with energy, their eyes blank. Her people, and she hated them, not because they wanted to kill her, but because they had never once asked her why she didn't want to go back. Jace took cover behind a log and fired his rifle. One of the armored figures fell. Another replaced him instantly. They moved like machines. Alara struck from above, using the trees like a ghost. She dropped onto a soldier and slammed her elbow into the power core in his neck. Sparks flew. He collapsed. She kept moving. Jace was running low on ammo. The bot was damaged already, dragging one leg behind it, but still firing short stun bursts. The forest was a war zone. Jace and Alara fought back to back now. Every breath was a promise that they would not leave each other behind. We can't hold much longer. Jace shouted over the noise. Alara's eyes flashed. We don't have to. She pulled out a device from her belt, something she had hidden from even Jace. What is that? He asked. A call, she said. But not for them. For someone else. She pressed the button. Far above them, beyond even the enemy fleet, another signal was sent into space. Alara had reprogrammed it days ago, silent, secure. She had never believed in hope. But Jace had taught her something new. If she could change, maybe others could too. Maybe not all humans were monsters. Maybe not all aliens had to be cold. Jace covered her as she sent the signal. Then a voice came through on the broken radio. Static. Then words. Unknown transmission received. Identify. Alara took the mic. Her voice shook. This is Alara, of the Vayari race. I'm not your enemy. I request help. Coordinates attached. Hostiles inbound. Silence. Then. Acknowledged. She looked at Jace. Help is coming. How do you know? Because I asked. Above them, one of the alien ships began charging a beam. The air shimmered. The trees started to tremble. Then out of nowhere, a blast hit the ship from behind. Boom. A second ship, human-made, dropped out of the clouds like thunder. Sleek, scarred, painted with a faded Earth flag. Another blast. The enemy ship spiraled into the trees. Alara fell to her knees, stunned. Jace laughed, wild and breathless. You did it. I didn't save us, she whispered. We saved each other. The remaining enemy soldiers began to retreat as more human ships appeared on the horizon. The sky lit up with fire, and in the middle of it all, a girl who had never known family stood beside a man who had lost his, and they both realized They had just created something new, something stronger than blood. A bond built not on duty, but on choice. Asterisk. Smoke drifted through the trees long after. The battle was over. It mixed with the fog, with the smell of ash and burned metal, and it hung heavy in the air like grief that refused to lift. Jace walked through the clearing, rifle hanging loose in his hand, eyes scanning every shadow. There was no more gunfire, no movement. The enemy had retreated, or maybe they were dead. It didn't matter now. The fire in the sky had faded to silence, but something was wrong. Alara hadn't spoken since the final ship fell. She sat on the foggy ground, her back against a tree, her silver hair clinging to her face. Her breathing was shallow. Her blue skin, once glowing faintly, had gone pale, almost gray. Jace dropped beside her, panic rising in his throat. "Alara," he said softly. "Talk to me." She opened her eyes, barely. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. He looked down and saw it. A dark wound just below her ribs. It was deep, slow bleeding, hidden under her clothing. She'd been hit. He hadn't even seen it happen in the chaos. She'd fought through. It never showed it, not once. "God," he whispered. "No, no, no." He tore open his med kit, hands trembling. Most of it was made for humans, gauze, sealant, painkillers, not for aliens. But he used everything he had. Wrapped the wound, cleaned the blood, held her hand when she winced. She tried to speak again. Her voice was so soft he had to lean close to hear it. Stay, don't say that," he said. "You're not going anywhere. You're gonna be fine." She smiled faintly. "Not scared." He shook his head. "You're the bravest damn person I've ever met." The sun was setting now, casting gold light across the ruined clearing. It should have been beautiful. But all Jace saw was her face, her skin growing colder by the minute. He carried her inside the shelter, laid her down gently on the bed. The same bed he had built for himself. The place where he once thought he would die alone. Not anymore. She looked at him, eyes half closed. "What is this feeling?" Jace swallowed hard. "What feeling?" "This heavy, warm, here." She touched her chest. "When I see you hurt, when you talk to me." He looked away. His throat felt tight. "That's love," he said. "It's what family feels." She nodded slowly. "Family. You're mine now," he whispered, "no matter what happens." He stayed with her all night, feeding her water, wiping her face, whispering stories she couldn't fully understand. Stories about Earth, about his sister Lily, about oceans and stars and laughter. He didn't know if she heard him. Outside, the human ships hovered quietly, watching the skies. The battle was over, but the planet still held its breath. A day passed. Then, too, Alara slipped in and out of sleep. Sometimes she opened her eyes and whispered his name. Sometimes she just stared at the ceiling, silent and still. Jace didn't leave her side. He found her old toolkit in the wreckage and studied every part of it, looking for medicine, for clues, for hope. But most of it was damaged. He begged the radio for help. "Human medical unit," the voice on the other end said. "We've never treated Vayari biology. We'll send someone, but no promises." That wasn't good enough, so he kept trying. On the fourth day, her breathing stopped for 5 terrifying seconds, then returned, weak and slow. Jace pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "Please don't leave me." He remembered what it was like to lose his sister, how the world had gone quiet for weeks, how he stopped speaking, how he stopped hoping. But with Alara, hope had returned, and now it was breaking all over again. He barely noticed the moment when her eyes opened wide, not with fear, but with clarity. She sat up slightly, her hand reaching for his. He grabbed it. "You're here," she said. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Always, she looked at him, truly looked. Her glowing blue eyes soft and alive. I feel full. Full? She touched his face gently, not empty anymore. He couldn't speak. She leaned against him, weak but smiling. You showed. Who I can be. You already were, he said. I just helped you see it. Outside, the morning sun broke through the clouds. For the first time in days, it wasn't red dot, it was gold. Alara lay back down, peaceful now, not healed, but safe, and in her heart, something new had taken root. Not survival, but belonging. She had crossed a galaxy, lost her people, fought her own kind, and nearly died, but she had found something rare, someone who had seen her, not as a soldier, not as a threat, but as family. And in the silence of that small shelter, between two broken souls, morning finally came. Days passed, and Alara didn't die. She healed slowly, breath by breath, step by step. Her skin regained its glow, soft at first, then stronger with each sunrise. The wound remained, a quiet reminder of what she'd given up. But it no longer controlled her. Pain was no longer her prison. Outside, the forest was beginning to come alive again. The birds had returned. The trees, though scarred, still stood tall. The soil still grew. Life, like her, refused to give up. Jace had barely slept during the first week. He kept checking on her every hour, fixed what he could around the shelter, repaired the broken roof, reinforced the walls. But he stayed close. Just in case, now for the first time, he watched her walk, slowly, carefully, from the shelter to the garden he had once tried to plant. She wore a stitched-up jacket that hung loosely from her shoulders, and her steps were stiff. But she was walking alive and real. Be careful, Jace said, stepping out after her. Alara turned, smiled. I'm not glass. No, he said, smiling back. You're tougher than I am. She sat down on the edge of the garden. Her fingers brushed over a small green sprout poking from the dirt. She tilted her head. What is this? She asked. Food, Jace said. If I don't, kill it by accident first. She looked at the sprout again. It's trying. He sat beside her. A lot of things are. There was a long pause. The kind of quiet that didn't feel empty, just full of thoughts waiting to settle. Finally, Alara spoke. Your people, will they come for you? Jace shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. I sent the signal. A ship replied, but that was days ago. You could go. I could. He looked at her now, and his voice softened. But I won't leave unless you do. She said nothing at first. Then she looked down at the dirt on her hands. I gave up everything for this. I know. Do you ever miss what you lost? He nodded. Every day. But I wouldn't trade what I found. She looked at him puzzled. You, he said simply. I found you. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had no words for that. Her people never taught her what to say when someone meant something. So she said the only word that felt right. Brother. Jace froze. She had said it softly, awkwardly. But it wasn't just a word. It was a choice. A declaration. He didn't say anything back. Just reached over and gently touched her shoulder. She smiled. Later that day, they sat outside the shelter and watched the sky together. The clouds were thinner now. The air felt lighter. In the distance, a shape appeared. Small, like a shadow, blinking lights, metal wings. A ship. Jace narrowed his eyes. That's human design. Alara stood up. Her body tensed. They found us, he said. Will they take you? He looked at her. Maybe, or maybe they'll ask questions. What about me? Jace smiled. You're with me. The ship landed slowly, kicking up dust. It was smaller than the alien warships, less polished, but somehow warmer. It didn't feel like danger. It felt like a door. A man stepped out, unarmed, hands raised. He wore Earth colors, navy and gray. and had an old military patch on his sleeve. "You Jace Rowan?" he called. Jace nodded, stepping forward. The man glanced at Alara, then back at him. "We picked up your signal weeks ago. Tracked it here. You okay?" Jace looked back at Alara, who stood silently beside him. "We're alive." The man paused. "She one of them?" Jace's jaw tightened. "She's with me." The soldier looked between them again. He nodded slowly. "Not my business. Just here to check in. Offer evac. This place isn't safe long term." Jace turned to Alara. "Do you want to go?" She looked at the sky, at the ship, at the life she'd built here with her hands. Her heart. Then she looked at Jace. "This is home." Jace smiled. "Then we stay." The soldier didn't argue. Just handed them a small kit, supplies, tools, a working radio. "If you change your mind," he said, "just call." And then he left. The ship rose into the sky and vanished, leaving only quiet behind. That night, Alara sat beside Jace by the fire, their shoulders brushing lightly, the flames dancing between them. She spoke slowly. "Do you think someone like me can really be family?" He looked at her, steady and sure. "You already are." She nodded. "Then I'll grow, like the sprout." Jace laughed. "You already have." And as the stars came out, as the night wrapped around their small shelter on a lonely planet, two of them sat side by side. Not strangers, not enemies, but something new, not born from blood, but chosen, a new kind of home.